Hello, hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Oluwatosin Oshi Fodunrin, and today we'll be talking about launching our first EC2 instance and also some basic Linux commands, maybe top 10 basic Linux commands. So, first off, so what is EC2 instance actually? So, EC2 instance is actually it means elastic cloud computing. So the cloud computing in the EC2 is a cloud computing. That's double C, C for cloud, C for computing. So and that is actually what is shortened for it to be EC2. So C2, two C's. So EC2 instance can also actually be seen to be like a virtual computer. So think of it like your regular computers. You know how you go through your computers, you move folders, create files, type, and do all of those stuffs on your computer. So that is actually what EC2 instance actually does. But in this case, you don't get to see all of those beautiful user interface you see on your computer. You only interact with your computer with just command lines, with just giving it a command. Okay, this is what I want you to do with this command. So you are going to be presented with a black screen or maybe blue, depending on what type of instance you are running. So, but in the most usual case, you're going to be presented with a black screen and where you actually run all of your commands. So basically, EC2 instance once again is just basically like a virtual computer. Think of it like a computer in computer. So we are only asking AWS to give us a computer. We need a computer. We need a computer of this particular memory size, this particular RAM, and we need it depending on. So it depends on how efficient or how efficient you want your resource to go. So and hence the amount of memory you want to demand from AWS. So there are actually different type of EC2 instance, but we won't be diving deep into that. What we're doing today is just to launch our EC2 instance and actually run basic Linux commands. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I am here in on my AWS dashboard, which I believe everyone should know how to get here. So if I click on launch instance, if I click on launch instance and that loads up and takes me here. So as you can see, Amazon EC2 instance allows you to create virtual machines or instances that runs on the AWS cloud. So it tests tests server. Just gonna name it that. And like I told you, there are so many different types of instances. So you depending on what you want exactly as an instance. So you can decide to run an Amazon Linux instance. You can decide to launch a Mac OS instance, an Ubuntu, Windows, Red Hat. So if you want, for example, you want a Windows computer. So yeah, think of it like that. So you can actually get a Windows environment and click select this. You can decide to make if you want a Mac OS environment, you can actually decide to click on that and so on. But for this demo purpose, I'm going to click on Ubuntu. I'm going to click on Ubuntu and so this I'm AMI, so I'm going to select the Amazon machine image. So because I want, let's just wait for that to come up. Um, hmm. Okay, so these are actually AMIs, but this is actually what wasn't. This is actually not what I was expecting to come to bring out. But yeah, these are AMIs. This is Ubuntu, the 64 bits, x86 or ARM. They are actually and so many of them, as you can see here, it says platform Ubuntu, root device EBS, virtual HVM. Yep. So depending on what you actually want your instance to look like, you click on the one you want. But this is actually not where I expect it to be. So I'm just going to go back one step and get start from the scratch, launch instance. Um, so if I click on launch instance, da, okay, and I name it again, test server. Okay, test server, and I'm going to leave it on the Ubuntu server 24.004 LTS T2 macro. So these are types of instance. It's type of AMI is actually type of um, memory basically. So this actually is tells you what type of memory you want in your instance, what type of how do you want your instance to look like. So if, as you can see here in this T2 micro, it says this is a T2 family and it has just one virtual computer, 1 gig memory, and current generation true on demand Windows based pricing 0.0162. But obviously it's actually it's actually eligible for a free tier version. So hence the reason why we are choosing that. So I'm just going to leave it at that at T2 micro. And here the key pair. So here you need to a key pair actually is actually used to log into your instance. To is actually used to communicate with your instance. If you want to get into your instance to talk to your instance, your key pair is actually the one you actually use to show your instance that, hey, this is like my identity, this is my ID card. I have the right to get into this instance. So think it as that. So in this case, we're going to create a key pair. So if I click on create key pair, uh, click create key pair, and I just give my key pair a name. Say I give it test pair or test, just test. That's it. I just give it test, and I leave the oh sorry test scene. Yeah, and I leave the other things exactly as they are. So on RSA encrypted public, private and public key pair, and I leave it at .pen because I want a .pen key pair format. Sorry, and I click on create. So if I click on create, it's going to download a copy of this key pair on my local computer. I mean on this particular desktop that you are using. So it's going to download a copy of the a copy there actually. So and afterwards security group. I'm just going to leave the security group as it is. We are going to talk about security group maybe later. Security group basically is actually how you allow the traffic, how you want traffic into and outside of your computer or of your instance, sorry, or your server. So that is actually what security group does. So if I don't want uh, a particular a particular infrastructure or a particular server or a particular port to have access into my instance, I mean this particular instance I'm creating, I can just tell the instance by creating a security group that okay, here, see, I don't want this particular instance to have access into this particular port or IP address to have access into this server. So here at the moment, I'm just going to leave it as allow SSH traffic. So I'm just going to leave that checked and I'll just leave the rest. After all of this, we can actually edit our security group, but for now, this is just what I'm going to leave. So SSH is just it's called a secure shell. So SSH is actually the one you use to run it. Maybe it's going to be our first command line, basic command line that we're going to be looking at. So SSH is actually used to get into your server. So it's like a command line used to get into your server. So of course we want that because we want to see what we have in our server. So I'm going to leave that as allow SSH traffic, and I'm just going to leave it the rest as default afterwards. So and as you can see, I'm just going to click on launch instance afterwards here. So if I click on launch instance, and our instance is launching, so we wait for that to come up to 3%, and we wait a little while long. You have to wait for the instance to launch, otherwise, if you interrupt it, it's just going to terminate it, and you won't have an instance at the end of the day. So I'm going to click on instance. And as you can see, it's actually loading our instances. And have an instance, as you can see, we named it test server. This is the instance ID, and it's currently running. It's a T2 micro instance. The status check is actually still initializing. If you refresh it, maybe it's going to be done initializing. The alarm status, the availability zone. So we're going to talk about availability zones. And this is the public IPv4 DNS and the public IPv and so on. So this is actually, so now we have an EC2 instance. So let's get into this instance. Let's see what we have in there. So it's a fresh computer, so we don't expect to have so much in there. So let's try to get into it. So if I click on this box here, so it gives me all of these options, and I click on connect up here. Connect. You remember I allowed SSH because because that is actually the method which I want to get into my server. So if I come here on SSH client, so then afterwards you go into your Windows browser or your local computer, either Windows or your Bash script or anywhere, or your Mac OS or whatever server you are, or whatever computer. Your physical computer in this period actually. So if you go there and you run this, actually, I told you that a piece of this, that a copy of your private key was downloaded on your server. So this SSH is saying that SSH with identity, -hi means identity. Yeah, this is your identity here because you have it there in your local server. And then you're telling that SSH into this particular server, and that's it. So let's do that. Let's practicalize. So if on here, if I actually click on, okay, as you can see, it says here open an SSH client, which is actually obviously our local computer. Windows terminal. So if on your computer, if you just search for terminal on your search bar, you search for terminal, and you actually do all of these commands here. So I'm just going to do that right away. And so after searching for the terminal for me, I was able to get this. So I ran terminal on my computer, and it actually gave me it actually gave me this. So here, so I have this right now. So my the PEM key that I actually downloaded, the piece that I actually downloaded while we tried to create our key pair file, it actually went into our downloads folder. So one of the first few commands we're going to learn as we proceed here is actually a command called cd. Cd means change directory. So at the moment I am actually here c/user/mtosin. So if cd is actually used to change directory, but before I change directory, I want to change directory into my downloads folder because right now I am interacting with my local physical computer. Okay, now so this is my physical computer here. If you notice all of this, if you go to your local disk C, there's actually a folder there called users, and then there's a folder for me called mtoc. So if you look at yours as well, you can also follow that same path. So I want to see. I'm actually trying to trace where that piece of the PEM file, the key pair, the key pair, permit me, downloaded, because it's actually downloaded the other time. So for me, I'm just going to say, like I said, cd is change directory. So we want the cd into where it is, but how do we cd into where it is if we don't even know where it is? So for me right now, I'm going to say so there's another command actually that we call ls. I'm not going to run all this command yet. I'm just going to run them as we need them. So for now, I'm just going to run. If I run ls here, ls means list what you have in the current folder that we have, but that we are. So for now, we are in user/mtoc. So if I say ls, for it to list what I have in mtocin. So ls will give me all of this. So this is all the file I have in mtocin. So if I increase that, as you can see, this is all of the files and the folders I have in mtocin. As you can see, if you look at your physical computer as well, you will see all of this, the same thing. So you are literally interacting with your physical computer here. We are not on our AWS machine yet, AWS EC2 yet. We are still interacting with our physical computer because we are trying to get to see where the PEM file, the key pair file was downloaded. So I'm going to go to downloads folder. So this is downloads folder here. So like I told you, I think you can guess right. So how do we enter into this downloads folder? How do we enter? So I'm assuming you are guessing right. We are going to, if we say cd, like I said, cd means change directory. Right now I'm in mtoc. So in mtoc I have all of this. So now change directory to cd space downloads. Oh, sorry, I'm not gonna rush on that. Sorry. So cd space downloads. So if I say that and enter, as you can see now I am in /mtoc/downloads. So that is what. So we've learned cd for now. Now to clear your screen. You can do Control L for Windows users, Control L for Mac OS users. I'm not sure, but I would find out that out and let you know that. So I'm just clearing my screen so we can have a clean screen. So we are in the downloads folder right now. So if I say ls again, because I want to see what I have in the downloads folder, and I have all of this in my downloads folder. So remember the name of the key pair I created was testing. So, and it added these extensions .pem. So obviously testing.pem was downloaded inside our downloads folder then. So if you're adding download into the downloads folder, change your directory to all of the folders and make sure you just look for it. You can check folders in folders, folders in folder, and so on. So for me, it's actually here, testing.pem. So from here, since I know that it's here, I don't have to do anything. I just want to make sure it's there. So I'll go back to my AWS. So I'm back here and copy this this example here, SSH blah 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 blah. If I just copy that and paste it, that should actually work. Anyway, so it's asking about the authenticity of this visits can be established. Do you want to this key is not known by other names? Are you sure you want to continue connecting? So for me, it's yes, and I'm sure you want to do that as well. So after saying yes, and that's it. So now right now, as you can see, all we have here, you can just go through it whenever you have the chance. And so right now we are here in our instance. This is actually in our AWS instance now. To verify that, if I minimize this and go back to our instance and check our private IP. So compare your private IP with what you have in here. Exactly what we have here: 172.31.85.21. So that is our private IP. So I said, so right, basically we are now in our EC2 instance. So now continuing on our basic Linux command, we know what cd does. We know what I'm sure we know what cd does. We know what ls does, and also we know what ssh does. So ssh is what we ran before. This is it here, the one we copied from AWS. So ssh with identity testing.pem, which is inside this downloads folder and into here. So which means, please, I want to get into this computer using this ID. This is my ID card here. So that is what. So SSH is actually the one we use to do all of those, to run all of those commands. So right now, I think we are able to achieve SSH. We know what SSH does now. We know what CD does now. We know what LS does now. So we know what all of these do now. So and right now, I think we are going to look at about 10 of them. So afterwards, we are going to just let's look at what creating a folder. You want to create a folder in your in your Linux environment. Linux environment is actually your instance here. So you want to create a folder here. If I say mkdir, so mkdir means make directory. Okay, make directory. So I'm sure. So make directory. So if I say mkdir and give it a name. So what name do I want to give my directory? Let's give our directory name Tosin. So we've created a directory or folder, whichever name you call whichever thing you want to call it. Make directory Tosin. So if I say ls here now, I should see if a folder named Tosin. So this is it here. We are able to create a folder that is named Tosin, and now we can cd into Tosin. Okay, so now we can cd into Tosin. Inside Tosin folder, do we have anything in there? That's no, we don't have anything in here. So there's a difference between a file and a folder. I'm sure we all know that. So a folder is a folder. You can put a file inside a folder, but you can't put a folder inside a file. A file is just like you have a document that you have written text on it. So a file can live inside a folder. So let's create a touch. touch is used to create a file. So and you give it a name touch. Let's say you want to give it a name touch test. Touch test. So now remember we are inside the Tosin folder and we run touch test. So this is going to create a file named test inside Tosin folders. Let's run our command again. If I run ls, we have tests. As you can see that the color of test and Tosin are different. Tosin is blue because it's a folder. Test is white because it's a file. So now we are able to learn what commands. We've learned what SSH does. We've seen what CD does. We've seen what ls does. We've seen what mkdir does. We've seen what else? Remind me. Touch does. Yeah. So that's we are actually counting on 10. We're trying to see 10 of that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we are going to go for remember, like I said, I told you a file is actually just when you want to write anything. Remember, see it as your notepads that you have in your Windows computers. So actually that is where the vi that I mentioned earlier is going to come in. So to edit the text you have in Tosin, so if I say vi tests, so vi test, if I just enter that, you see it gives me this editor. This is actually where I type my thing. So now to actually start typing here, you need to say type. Just press I button. Make sure your caps lock is not on. If I press I here, if I press I on here, so it's going. If you look down here, it has changed this to insert. Then you can type whatever you want to type. So like you can type hello world, hello world. Hello world. So you can type as much as you can, and afterwards, after typing, if I press escape, after the escape, you would see that the insert is gone. And after escape, you press your shift, you press your colon. That's the double dot. That's the dots that you have. For me, it's just shift and the button after L. Yeah. So as you can see, this is what I'm talking about here. So and after that, press your W and Q. So that actually saves this text and actually quit out of this file. So if I enter, that's actually what we have in there. So that is actually what vi does. Vi is actually used to edit a file. So another command we'll be looking at is rm. Rm is actually used to remove files or folders. So it's actually used to delete, basically. So if you want to delete, let's say we want to delete our test file right now. So if I say rm test, and that should delete. If I say ls now, test is gone. So rm is used to delete. So and so the next command, how many commands have we done? I want to make sure we do about 10 of them. We've done cd, we've done ssh, we've done ls, we've done ls, we've done mkdir, we've done touch, we've done vi, we've done rm, we've done and that's how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so we've done 7. So then another command I want us to look at is sudo. So sudo is, in your computer, I mean, in your physical computer, how you try to open some documents, and it tells you because you are not the administrative user, you can't do that. You can't open that document because you're not the admin user. So same thing here. But so and in your computer, and then it asks you to click on to open with administrator privilege. So now in Linux environment, administrator privilege is the sudo. So sudo is actually a way of telling it, okay, I am the root user. I am the administrator of this particular server. So allow me run this thing. So here, if I say so sudo is spelled sudo. I'm looking at how to practicalize that without going deep to what I shouldn't go into yet, because I want to take this I want to make sure I take this class one step at a time so we can understand what we are doing here. So okay, let's run is let's try to update our server, for example. So if you want to actually update a Linux or Ubuntu server, for example, you run sudo apt update. So update is actually to update the repos. Like I said, I don't know. I just have to say all of this because I don't want to. I honestly don't want to go deep into all of this until it's actually necessary. But I guess it's actually the only way I can explain what sudo does. So sudo apt update. So apt sudo is, like I said, root user, and apt is actually the repo name for Ubuntu. So repo name, what is actually the repo? Repo is actually where all is actually where where is actually where all of the datas or the binaries or the softwares actually that is actually running on this particular AWS server is actually being stored. So if for example if you want to download Java, for example, Java, so if you run sudo apt install Java, it actually first of all goes into that repo, checks if Java actually exists in there. So the repo, a Ubuntu repo, for example, that we're actually talking about, for example, here is actually a set of existing softwares or applications that your server needs now or even later. So update is actually used to update them and make sure that they are in check, they are good. So that's actually what we are doing here. Sudo apt update. If I had run just apt update, as you can see, it won't let me do that. Permission denied. We don't open log file and blah 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 blah. So, but if I say sudo apt update, if I run that, you see what is doing right now. So this is what sudo apt update does. Update all of them. Update the component, translation, AN64, yeah. Update all of the packages, yeah. I think that yeah, that's what it's called. So it updates all of the packages in the server. So it's actually advisable immediately you launch your instance. Do make sure you first of all run sudo apt update to update all of your packages inside all of the existing packages in the Ubuntu instance. So let's wait for this to actually finish running. I honestly don't want this video to be this long, but I guess there's nothing I can do about that. So I'm just going to pause. Okay, so it's all done. So and now I believe we know what sudo does. So if here I want to clear my screen because it's actually too crowded here. Do you want to guess what command I need to run here to clear my screen? Just guess Control L, Control L, or if I type clear as well, clear also works out. So clear will clear your screen. So we are able to cover sudo ssh clear rm vi what else ls cd what else we have mkdir touch so what else? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So one more before we call it a day is actually a command called pwd. Pwd actually is used to check your current working directory. So pwd stands for print working directory. What is working directory? We'll just find out. So here I am on Tosin folder. So if I type pwd, it tells me exactly where I am. So at the background, this particular tilde, this is called tilde here. So this, let me highlight that. This particular thing here is called a tilde, and it's actually also called the root. So and also it actually also stands for this /home/ubuntu. So Tosin is not just Tosin. At the background, I am in /home/ubuntu, then /tosin. So tosin is inside Ubuntu, Ubuntu is inside the home. So pwd is actually used to ask the computer, hey, server, hey, my EC2 instance, what current directory I am, where am I, sorry, at the moment. So if you type pwd, that gives you your current working directory. Remember, pwd means print working directory. So and I think that is actually 10 of them. Yeah. So I'm just going to stop here for now. And until the next class, we are going to discuss more further. Maybe we're going to discuss creating our AWS VPC. That is the virtual private cloud. The subnet, the NAT gateway, the internet gateway. We are going to be creating all of this step by step. And that's what we'll be doing in the next class. So until the next class, and I bet you are on your way to being a DevOps engineer. As you can see, we are already getting into the complex, not complex, I won't call it complex actually, into the more advanced part of it. So thank you very much once again for watching the video until now. Please make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like. Comment as well. Questions are welcome, please. Ask your questions, and if you have any application or software you want us to talk about, please do make sure to leave it in the comment section, and I'll make sure I attend to every one of them. Thank you once again for watching my video, and until the next class, bye.